So I'm going to show you something about orthotics, because when I started my talk I said I'm going to show you 3 underlying causes to all the problems you have. And by now you know that your foot is one of your major underlying causes, because your foot is not going through the proper range of motion every time you take a step. And it's causing your ankle to rotate in, your knee rotates in, your hip rotates out, blows a fuse, turns half the muscles off, half become too tight, and it just creates havoc all the way up. So that's one of the major causes. So I'm just going to talk about how to correct that foot problem now. So I took this out of the London Free Press newspaper. It says 80 years of foot care carries sense of tradition. So they're happily showing us here the 3rd generation guy who's been doing this in his family business for 80 years. And he's pictured here with all his boxes with footprints in them and a plaster foot in his hand. And the method they use for doing this, and it's used in a tremendous percentage of orthotic places where you get orthotics. Podiatrists, chiropodists, podorthists, orthotists, prosthetists use this method. So the first thing they do, they have this nice little box full of molding material. Could be plaster, could be foam, could be a combination, a composite material. But they push your foot into there, and your foot's already flat. And they make a pattern of that. And then they take your foot out and they put more plaster in, and they let that plaster harden, and then they come up with a plaster foot. Just like your flattened out, broken down foot. Then they take that plaster, and they use that plaster, they set it up in a demo box, and they lay on the leather, and they lay on the cork, and they lay on the plastic, and they heat it all together, and then they give it to you. And they say, okay, there you go. Now that's just going to keep your foot right where it was all along. It's not correcting anything. Is that obvious? So what we want to do is we want to do a different method where we're actually correcting something. So I'm going to show you what some of these look like, starting with this one here. This orthotic was made using that method. And this is what the person was given to put in their shoe and correct all their problems with, see? Anybody want this?
No.
Can I sell it, you know, 20 bucks or something?
I'll give you 10.
Not today. Got to keep it a little longer. So this is another one. This looks a bit better. This doesn't cave in under the foot. This just has a little arch there. It looks like, hey, that might work. But the fellow who wore this, his foot fell down on there every single time he took a step. And you can actually see the line where his foot contacted this every single time he took a step. And this man had excruciating foot, leg, and back pain. He worked on his feet every day, and by 3 hours into his day, he was already in pain. So I brought him into my clinic. I fitted him with a pair of the orthotics that we make. He walked outside to the sidewalk, came back in, he says, all the pain is gone. I say, yes, that's what we're looking for here. I have lots of these. I have a museum full of these. All the ones that don't work. So I just want to show you something completely different. And this is a result of goal setting too, because the people who invented this were working with Olympic athletes, and they wanted them to get the gold. So they went out with their video cameras, and they videotaped people walking, running, and jumping, and then they slowed the videotape down, and they watched every little incremental motion that the foot makes when it goes through its range of motion. So they said, we're going to make something that actually works with the foot. So they went to NASA, the space industry, and they got this non-crushable foam. So if you squeeze this, it bounces right back, but it's hard to squeeze. So when you walk on it with all your body weight, it feels like you're walking on a cloud of air. It's a wonderful experience. Now this part, this is the business part of it. We put this in the oven, we make it soft and pliable, so we can actually mold this right up into the bony arch. But if I take this and I bend it like that, and I let go, it's going to go right back the way it was. And if I bend it this way, no problem, goes right back the way it was, because it has memory. So now when I mold it up into your arch, it remembers the exact architecturally correct outline of your arch, and it always bounces back to that. But in the meantime, it's nice and flexible. You can run, you can jump, you can climb ladders, you can do anything you want to do with these things in your shoe. So I'm just going to show you one that a client of mine wore for 10 years. I've had them wear these up to 17 years. People ask me, do these last? Yes, they last. But this guy wore this for 10 years, and in 10 years, you know your feet are going to hit this millions of times. So right here, you can see where he polished the heel strike area. And you can see where he transferred his weight down the outside edge of this. And you can see where he pushed off. But look here, this whole area here, his foot didn't touch it. This is all fresh suede right here. So we don't want the arch of the foot to touch the orthotic, because we want the muscles in the back of the leg here that go down underneath the foot. We want those muscles to actually hold the arch up. That's what they were designed to do in the first place. So when I fit somebody in my office, I have them sit up high in a high chair. We go into the back of the leg here, we turn these muscles on, and then we correct the arch of the foot, and then I take the orthotic, I mold it right up into the bony arch, I cool it in that position, and then it's architecturally correct for your foot.